Last 2 weeks, you showed footage on your station. That was somewhere in 1995 when there was a flood in Accra, and Rawlings was in the flood leading the people. And 31 years after, we are back to the same situation at a magnitude that is more devastating than what we even witnessed under Rawlings. For me, I think that is quite problematic. It's some sort of a system failure on the part of successive government, because over the years, when it comes to sanitation, sewage systems, and keeping our drains clean, it has never been a priority, because the bottom line is that we are always looking at where we can cash out in terms of political capital. People don't see the need to invest money in areas they cannot, cash political capital out of it. So it has never been a priority. And for me, that's the reason why we are still wallowing in the pool of some of these challenges that we very often pop up when it rains. So at this point in time, realizing the need to hold the bull by the horn and take pragmatic measures, not just reactionary. Very often what we see is like a state on a pain medication, just to keep the body numb and high, because there is a disaster right in front of us. So when the president gave the directive, willingly, everybody transformed himself into a willing participant going forward to participate, because fresh on their minds, there was a tragedy. But the question is that going forward, if it is not backed by any comprehensive policy plan, at the end of the day, would people be willing to show up in the next 1 month, in the next 2 months? The answer is no, because we've had instances in the past where such declaration had been made. People came out for the first time, second time, then it ended. You understand? So for me, it's a good initiative by the president. And when I saw a lot of people getting involved, it was quite refreshing to see that indeed Ghanaians are willing to help in enterprises like this. But going forward, we need to come up with policy. That will be very demanding. That will come out with a certain supervisory, so that people will have that in their mind, that maybe on every quarter, every Friday, like the last Friday of every quarter, this is what we are doing, so that we have it on our calendar. So you will not be in a situation where if you are willing, you come out, if you are not willing, and again. I think we need to build drains. All these things you see, the major solution is building an extensive sewage system, because if you go to the big cities out there, beneath the road are extensive sewage systems. So when it rains, automatically it drains off. Or if you look at our road, there is no space. There is absolutely nothing. Even if you look at some of the gutters they construct, it's so sometimes you may not be an engineer, but when you see some of them, then you feel that something is actually wrong. And again, at this time and age, I wonder why we still do open drains. Because when it floods and gets full, that is where the spillover comes in. But if it is covered, there will be no spillover. Whatever it is, it will manage itself and then get
Probably that's what Ernest was talking about, that elsewhere, when you're constructing the road, you're mindful of the sewage system.
Exactly.
But is it that we don't have the money, or it's just poor planning?
No, it's poor planning, and it has never been a priority, because if you go to some of the advanced cities, in America, for instance, on their major road, you can just open a hole within the road, go about 20 to 30 kilometers. That is a sewage system, very extensive. And when it rains, definitely it will take care of the water and those kind of stuff. But in our part of the world, I'm not sure we have any. Quite recently, we've constructed a lot of big roads here. Circle quite recently. Look at the amount of money we pumped into that particular project. But at the end of the day, you saw what happened yesterday. Yeah, I can admit that the water we had the last time was something nobody anticipated. Yes, but you see, the devastation could have been, to a certain extent, lessened. You understand? So I hope we learn lessons out of it, because when 3rd June happened, we said to ourselves, we made a lot of promises. We were going to do that money started flowing, a lot of money. The last time I checked, from 2017 to date, we've had almost $600 million for the purposes of constructing drains and those kind of stuff. But the question is that those monies were pushed into certain perverted enterprises, certain perverted, the money didn't go in. I know that some ended up under the bed of some people and those kind of stuff. But up to now, nobody has even done a thing about it.
Who?
But you know the story. You know the Cecilia.
Well, we're not able to prove now that whatever it is that you're talking about. As a result.
But the case, the special prosecutor took the case up back and forth. You see, she's not the only person. I'm saying that it has been a decade-old challenge. Over the years, you can flip the clock and go back to the past.
Yeah.
A lot of monies have been coming, not just the Cecilia Dapa case. There are a lot of money that have come into this country, over 600 million and still counting.
But we just have to stress that we're not assuming, because we don't have the facts now, that she's culpable of any offense. We don't have that.
I'm only making reference to the public information. You understand?
Right.
Because
we just have to.
Exactly.
But issue that disclaimer.
No.
Yeah, it's very important.
I'm making reference to
what about the case? What's safe for us to talk about is Garrett and how lots and volumes of monies have been counted. That's what you were talking about.
I'm not saying waste money, but at the end of the day, monies were found. In instances like this.
I'm concerned about the money expended on
money. Yeah. Okay, it's not flat money, but money is...
Garrett, I'm concerned about Garrett.
Unexplained money.
Government is being accused of not using the funds properly, the Garrett fund, because if we're deploying that, we shouldn't be seeing the kind of floods we're seeing.
Oh, exactly. That is the point.
I spoke to the former minister in charge of local government. He was with Dr. Baumia the other day, the MP for Teshiman South. Yes, I was speaking to him. He seems not to be really happy with how government's not deploying the funds, Garrett funds.
And I think that the donors will be worried where those monies are coming from, because you see, the whole thing is that they've realized there is a problem, and in plain part to
because June 3 was the source of that.
Exactly, but the money comes in, then we push it to other perverted priorities. We don't use it for the intended purpose. For me, that is the problem. And when it comes to flood drain and those kind of stuff, let us be honest with ourselves and ask if we have any substantive policy on it. There is absolutely nothing. So it has been always reactionary. When it comes, then we need to do something just to, for people to see that we are actually doing something. But in reality, when it ends, when this season ends, everybody in this country is going to forget about rains or drains and whatever until next year comes and we come to the same arena. I think we need to move beyond the talk and then come up across the political divide. Let us elevate this conversation beyond the frontiers of politics, come together and tell ourselves that we have failed as a country going forward. These are some of the pragmatic policy kind of initiative putting up just to ensure that it's not just about distributing money to flood victims, but it's about constructing deep drains, building sewage system, and also when it comes to waste management, whether decentralization or whichever way that we want to do it, we make sure that even if it is given to a private company, we make sure the state take a vested interest in it and make sure people actually do the work. The companies who have been outsourcing of these things, the major problem is that the company will become rich and the poor people who will be on the street doing the dirty job are being handed a paltry amount. At the end of the day, there is no motivation on their part to do anything. You understand? So for me, even if we end up handing over to private enterprises like we've been doing, government need to take vested interest in the arrangement or discussion. Government need to take the side of the other people who will be doing the work so that it becomes some sort of a viable, comprehensive policy option that will have a future and with some guarantees. Not that it's just about the money, we just throw money. At the end of the day, if you are asked to account for them, because if you go back as far as 1995 up to now, monies that has been designated for these purposes, if you ask successive government to account for them, nobody will be able to account. You understand? I only mention this one because it's fresh on our memory. But the fact is that if you go back to whichever year up to now, there is absolutely nothing. So for me, I think that these things we saw yesterday, we've seen it before. Yes, it's good initiative. The president was involved. Everybody was involved. Ghanaians willingly came out to participate. That was quite refreshing. And he also re-invoked that sense of passion within Ghanaians that they are willing to do that. But going forward, on their own, people will not willingly come. We need a policy, an actionable policy plan that will dictate, that will prescribe what has to be done, and then punitive sanctions and consequences must also be lowered to people. For instance, there are military men going around town pulling down buildings. Yeah, that is good. But the question is that many of the people who built in the so-called waterways, who gave them the permit to do so? So at the end of the day, if we just pull down the building without looking for the people at the assembly who gave out the permit, I have never heard anybody in any assembly who has been sanctioned for issuing unauthorized permits. So at the end of the day, these things are not punitive in us. You understand? So we need to learn a better lesson by making sure that we establish the conventional red sign in the sun. Whoever contravenes any of them faces the sanctions. Else we will be talking and come back next year and be doing the same thing. Nothing will come out of it. Yeah.